Hi, my name is Melissa and I'm from Montreal, Canada. You know how everyone has flaws? Mine is that I'm too cute, and trust me, it's ruining my life. Before I explain how, please like and subscribe.
We can keep one twin each. Melissa is mine.
No, Melissa is mine. You take Mora. I will not let you separate me from my baby girl.
Listen, Janet, I won't let you take her. She's the one who got my genes after all.
Are you calling me ugly?
No, that's not what I meant. Well, your personality, yes, but...
My parents had a sliding door in their room which led to a balcony, and we lived on the 4th floor. Suddenly, I saw my mom push my dad out of the door and shove him over the balcony. He was hanging onto the railing by one hand, and then just like that, he was gone. Well, he didn't die, but he hurt himself really badly. My mom went to prison for attempted murder, and my dad ended up getting custody of both of us in the end. I guess you could say that this was the first tragedy caused by my cuteness. I have a fraternal twin sister named Mora, and this means we don't really look alike. When we were kids, everyone liked me more. I was the favorite because somehow I got all the cuteness. Poor Mora was just an average-looking kid, and sometimes people totally ignored her if we were in the same room. She didn't seem to mind though, and we got along pretty well until we were about 5 years old. That was when my parents couldn't stand each other's guts anymore. They decided to get a divorce, and they would always fight about who would get to keep me. Neither of them cared about who would get Mora, and I think that made her a bit sad. That night that I walked in on them arguing stuck with me for life. Have you ever witnessed one of your parents trying to hurt each other and it was all your fault? I didn't only get all the attention at home. At elementary school, everyone wanted to be my friend. Even the teachers wanted to have lunch with me, especially Miss Mendez, my math teacher. I got top marks in her class, even though I still use my fingers to count today. She brought me little presents every day, and I think it made some of my classmates jealous. Mora was in my class too, and she treated her like she simply wasn't there. But I found out that it was more than my cuteness that was causing her to be so nice to me. One night, I was in the middle of a good dream when I woke up and started to feel really thirsty. I went down to the kitchen to get some water, and Miss Mendez was in my house, wearing a really sexy nightgown. What are you doing here? Am I in a dream? I don't have to do math, do I? No, darling. Just go back to bed. My dad walked in and looked shocked, then embarrassed.
We'll talk about this in the morning, honey.
It turns out Miss Mendez was having an affair with my dad, and she was just being nice to me because she was trying to be my stepmom. I don't know why she never tried to win Mora over too, though. I continued to have an awesome life until I started high school. It seemed that all the girls had developed over summer, all of them except me. Their bodies looked amazing, and the worst thing was that Mora's did too. She had curves, boobs, everything. And I still looked like a child. Ha ha ha, Melissa, you're still so flat.
Look at the adorable little baby.
Come, let me pull your cheeks. All of you shut up and leave me alone. I was starting to hate everyone at school, and I began to hate Mora even more because I was just so jealous. I wasn't used to not being the center of everyone's world. I was literally dying inside. Mora started getting attention from guys and had even been asked out a few times. But guys didn't even look at me if it wasn't to say, "Aw." After the Christmas vacation that same year, I decided to make myself look more attractive. I was sick of being the high schooler who still looked like a kid. So before leaving home on my first day of school, I filled up 2 balloons with water and stuffed them in my bra. I put on a waist slimmer too, and when I looked in the mirror, I was actually impressed. I looked hot. I finally had that hourglass shape. I walked to school in style, and everyone stared as I passed by. At school, people noticed me, and guys who never spoke to me before asked me for my name and number. I felt like I was on top of the world. But it seemed like there's a storm after every rainbow. You won't believe the utterly embarrassing thing that happened to me next. During math class, my teacher asked me to come up to the whiteboard and solve an equation. When I was done, I turned around waiting for everyone to clap for me. That was when Trevor, the class idiot, decided to throw a paper plane at the teacher's head. She dodged it, bumped into me, and went crashing into the wall. When I turned around, everyone stared at me silently. And then, the class was filled with laughter. I looked down at my shirt, and there was water dripping everywhere.
You put water balloons in your bra? Oh my gosh, somebody record us. How pathetic.
I ran out of the class crying. When I got home, I locked myself in my room and refused to come out for dinner. When my dad came home to check on me, I told him that there was no way I could go back to that school. Can you please let me go to another school?
Honey, you know I don't have time for this. I've been so busy with work. Plus the baby is coming and all that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that Miss Mendez had moved in a few years ago, and she had literally become my stepmom. She was expecting a baby with my dad. But Dad! I made my best puppy dog eyes, and he melted. At least the charm of being cute was still there. My new school was a few miles away, and no one there knew about my embarrassing moment. People were still obsessed with my cuteness, but no one would ask me out on a date. And you know what made things worse? Maura had a boyfriend, and he'd come over almost every day. It was awful and unfair. So I decided that I would have to steal him away from her. I added him online and started talking to him whenever he wasn't over at our house. I tried to be as seductive as possible, and after about 3 weeks, it seemed like he was falling for me. Then, one night, he asked me out on a date. It was my first date ever. And do you think I felt guilty that this was my sister's boyfriend? Not one bit. Because who was she to get a boyfriend before me? I was the better twin. Levi was such a gentleman. He brought me flowers and took me to a really cute park where we sat and ate snacks. I was sure that I had almost totally stolen him away from Maura. But life just kept on sucking because a week later, I came back from school early because I had to go for another date with Levi. I walked into Maura's room to borrow one of her shirts, and there she was, sitting on the bed with Levi. They were kissing. I was so angry, I picked up Maura's shoes and started throwing them at her. And him. How dare he kiss her? He had never even kissed me before. When I was done screaming at them, I tried to run outside, but I ended up tripping over one of the shoes. I felt pain in my arm like I'd never felt before.
Oh my gosh, Melissa, I think you broke your arm.
Leave me alone! I hate you!
You know, I knew you were trying to steal Levi from me. You became our little joke. He showed me all the messages you sent to him. I let him go on a date with you because I figured it would be funny. Fancy being our inside joke. You're the worst sister ever.
Spending a few days in the hospital really gave me some time to think. I guess I should have tried to find my own boyfriend instead of stealing my sister's. I decided that I'd try to develop my body in other ways and that eventually I'd find someone to love me. When I got out, I tried all kinds of fad diets. I wore waist trainers, I exercised, and did extra squats just to try and look more developed. After a while, I started to notice a few little changes. Nothing huge, but my clothes look better on me now. And at school, one guy actually started giving me some attention. But he was the class nerd, Dylan. I wasn't about to settle for him. My eyes were on Corey, the leader of the school's hockey team. And I decided that if I couldn't have Corey, I didn't want anyone else. Plus, this would make Maura so jealous. Corey was way better looking than Levi. But how would I get him to give me his attention? Sometimes he'd smile and wink at me when he passed, but that wasn't enough for me to know that he liked me. I started leaving anonymous love notes under his locker, and one day I hid while I watched him open it. But dozens of other love notes fell out. Clearly, I had a lot of competition. All the girls at my school wanted him. I decided that I needed to do something extraordinary. I thought about my plan for days and finally built up the confidence to do it. It was Saturday morning and Corey had a big game. I went there and sat in the stands. When it was break time, I walked over to the middle of the hockey field, nearly slipping on the ice several times. I was holding up a big sign which read, "Corey, will you go out with me?" His friends nudged him and he walked over to where I was standing. I froze and felt butterflies all over. He gazed into my eyes, and at that moment, I knew that he felt the same way about me. I could already picture our future together. Our house, kids, even our dog. Then, suddenly, he looked away and opened his arms. He had been looking at someone else all along. I turned around, and when I saw who it was, I could have exploded. Mora walked into his arms. He embraced her, took off his helmet, and gave her the most passionate kiss I had ever seen. I looked into the stands and saw Levi turn around and walk away. I glared at Mora with hatred, then ran after Levi. Maybe now he'd realize that I was much better for him than Mora was. Plus, we were both super embarrassed about our situation, so what could go wrong? Hey, wait up!
Leave me alone, Melissa.
Oh, come on. Let's talk about it.
I knew she was cheating on me all along. This was the proof that I needed. But I can't believe she did that in front of everyone. You know what? Maybe I should have really left her for you. You're much nicer, and you're prettier too.
Really? You think that?
Yes. Hey, you hungry?
Yeah. We went out on our first real date and continued to see each other after that. Mora started going out with Corey, but he broke up with her after 2 weeks, and it was hilarious. She tried to get Levi back, but he wanted nothing to do with her. So, in the end, I got my way. Isn't that great?